here. Let's pass the mic to today's dialogue partner, Kato-san and Jorge.
Hi, thank you very much, Natsumi-san. So next slide, please. Hi, everyone. My name is Yasuyuki Kato. Today's dialogue partner. So let me introduce myself. I'm a Chief Strategy Officer of GLOBIS USA. And I'm originally from Japan, and I'm living in San Francisco in the United States. And I've taught some subjects such as strategy and marketing and venture business planning at GLOBIS University. And today, as a dialogue partner, I'm also looking forward to listening to Jorge-san's presentation and having a dialogue with him. So here we have Dr. Jorge Calvo, Jorge-san. Of course, he's Deputy Dean of GLOBIS MBA, and he's taught in Japan and in Spain and the United States at Singularity Universities. Of course, he is one of the authorities of AI and innovations, today's topic. So next slide, please. So as you can see, he wrote a lot of books, and I've already read, and it's very insightful. And I'm planning to ask the concept in his book during our dialogue. Yeah. So without further ado, let me pass it over to Jorge-san.
Thank you very much, Kato-san. I want to share my screen. Okay, can you see my screen? Can you hear me? Okay, yep. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to address this webinar to this global audience. Starting by West Coast in USA, in San Francisco, one of my favorite cities. I used to go a couple of times a year, and I always enjoy time, especially on the Bay, and also from people that join us from Japan. That is very early morning, and some people also that join us from other regions. Welcome, and it's a pleasure to share with you this webinar. Well, we are going to talk today about, very briefly, about how the companies, they approach to a radical innovative business strategy enabled by the artificial intelligence. But before, let me start by a quote from Stephen Hawking. He say, 2 years before pass away, he said, the rise of powerful AI will be either the best or the worst thing ever to happen to humanity. And here that we can't not just ignore it. And this is what we decided here in GLOBIS. So we are not going not only to ignore that challenge, but also we are going to convert this challenge into opportunity for the society and an opportunity also for business. So we are working hard to make that AI will be the best thing that to happen to the humanity in the future. And why this? Because well, we are living in the fourth industrial revolution. It's a concept that is not new. In fact, we are transitioning very slowly to the fifth industrial revolution, the revolution of the cognitive systems. And that means that the humanity, we always move and we improve or we increase our wealth thanks to waves of innovation. These ways of innovation always they have been related about new innovative technologies and also new energy sources. I will show you later. But these switches in the paradigm, these paradigm changes, they also have dark sides. So the transition always is difficult for the companies and for the people that they stick in the past. So always is difficult to transition, to transform, to leave the box, the safe box, the comfort zone. And it's a mission of the business schools to educate and to train the leaders in this transition and also to lead the future. Let's reflect a little bit, yes, from the beginning about what these companies they have in common. Apple, Microsoft, Alphabet, Amazon, Tesla, Meta, Nvidia. We might say, well, all of them they are American, all of them they are IT, more or less. But the most point they have some points in common. The main point is that all of them they are driven. They didn't start specifically by AI because AI is something not new in terms of scientists, but quite new in terms of business application. But today they were able to transform the culture, the company, strong cultures, strong leading companies into AI-driven companies, so that they take the decisions and also the business model is fostered and is enabled by the artificial intelligence. But also, they are ranked in the top 10 market capitalization companies. No one was born before 1975, so they were born in the third industrial revolution. And they keep a growth about 20% in the market value per year, even some of them 35%. If we add the market capitalization of these companies, they will be very near to the GDP of countries like Germany or countries like UK. So we see that here that we are moving to a new economy, totally new economy that is AI driven. So we are moving also to a business that is going to be AI driven, and the transition is faster and faster. Just to give you one example, this is the volume of the companies that they are related with innovate, with innovation basic in technology and special basically in AI, just comparing 15 years. If we compare the market capitalization in 2005, we see that the market value of these companies it grows by 4.55 times. And we see that all the blue companies, the blue chips companies that we say before in the third industrial revolution about the hardware of the IT, but today is the software of the IT, they belong to the group I showed you before. So certainly we are living in a new context. It's not the future, it's today, and the companies they need to transition and to transform business into this new field. And also the leaders of the future, they need to learn about how to manage in this new age. But what does AI matter for incumbents tomorrow? Artificial intelligence has come to the business and our lives to stay. In the coming years, AI will be like electricity. In fact, the AI is the driver, is the facilitator, the enabler all the last transition of the fourth industrial revolution. We are going to have AI around us and everywhere. So in the immediate future, 60% of non-strategic tasks will be automated. We will live in smart homes and cities. Hopefully we will work less because we will apply more intellectual tasks rather than in physical tasks. AI research and development are being driven by 5 key technology factors that are fostering this disruptive impact in the economy. Big data, 5G, and Internet of Things. Basically, because we have Internet of Things, and that is connecting everything, people and machines, but also with 5G, that is speeding the communication among all these systems. We are creating a lot of big data. And this the big data is storage is in the cloud computing, and the cloud computing power is growing. And also the nanometerization, the microelectronic systems like smartphones and like many other devices that everything they are small and they integrate more functions are fostering this creation of data. This generation of data is not possible to manage by data analytics, must be automated. And second stage after the automation is automation, must be autonomous. They can take decisions and they can react in time to the changes. And this is the biggest challenge we have in the next 5 years. So, but what does it matter today? Just today, 90% of the data generated in the past 100 years has been collected in last 2 years. So this is the speed of the data aggregation in the today's society. Companies barely use 5% of the data they have already stored in the servers, in the computers, in the Excel files, in the emails, and even we don't account this data that is in social networks or everything in the open internet. So we can imagine that if companies, they need to manage this tsunami, this big wave of data that is coming, how they are going to manage by themselves if barely they manage only 5% of the data today. So we are facing a transformation of the workforce, not only in technical positions related to data, but also in all executive and management positions in the company. And there is no exception. There is not one function of the company that will escape from the influence of the AI, or let's say that in positive. There is no one function in the company that can be augmented, that cannot be augmented. So AI is going to augment talent, and AI is going to augment this creativity and this innovation in the companies. So executives and employees should familiarize themselves with the differential competitiveness of artificial intelligence and its learning economy scale. This is a new concept that we know, that we call today is learning economy of scale, learning economy of scale, and is added to the economies of scale, traditional economies of scales based on volume, and also the traditional economies of scope. And I will talk this about later. So, but as a conclusion, AI will not replace executives. AI will replace many jobs. So these executives, these positions will be replaced by other executives. They know how to use. They know how to use AI. How much AI does matter for CEOs? 77% of the CEOs, they claim that AI will change the way of doing business in 5 years. And this is a survey from 2020, just right before the pandemic. This increased today by to 85%. 60% of them, of the Fortune companies have begun already implement AI for product design and for operations efficiency, which is the best way to start to apply AI in something that we can manage and we can understand. 17% of them, they claim that they carry out the skills training programs and have been very effective. And this is something to pay attention because it's still a very low ratio. We see that 60% of the companies, they already apply in some way in the 500 some AI. So 77, they claim that in 5 years will be very important, but only they have only 17%. They are applying trainings. So they are not preparing themselves for the future. And this is going to be the gap of the transformation. 63% of them, they claim that they use AI with other technologies because AI by itself is like electricity. Is for nothing. So we need to look for one application, and also we need to we need to connect AI with other technologies that together they are going to foster the innovation. So what AI can do for business? Let's have a definition of AI. So the ability of a machine to perform cognitive functions that we associate with human means, such as perceiving, reasoning, learning, interacting with the environment, solving problems, and making their own decisions when faced with new situations. Anything that is not related about this definition is not AI. Could be analytics, could be a very good algorithm designed by mathematics or by statistics, very powerful. But the main capability of the AI is able to interact with the context and also is able to learn. It's able to learn with the intervention of the humans in the learning loop. The humans are supervising. But this is a lot of technology approach, so I'm not going to go deeply about how AI works. The point of the AI, it means that is facilitating, is enabling 3 different approaches, 3 different strategic approaches with 4 disruptive powers, with 4 functions in the digital transformation, and 2 of them, they are very new, and 4 strategic objectives for the companies that they can achieve with AI. If we mix all of this, we can promote a very radical innovation in the company. The four disruptive powers is, first one is universal access. Today, all the companies, all the people, we have access to the AI and a very cheap cost. Second one is marginal cost tends to zero. As much we develop the AI, cheaper is. And finally, the marginal cost is almost zero because we already created the algorithm, we have enough accuracy, and then we can use all the resources, human resources of development and machine resources for another projects, but also have an absence of decreasing returns. So we learn from the physical world that we have economies of scale, but there is a point that the economy of scale is broken and we fall in these economies of scale. In the AI, this never happened because it's always evolving and reducing the cost. And the most important combines the two main competitive advantage in one that was coined by Porter. That Porter say companies have to choose between two approaches of a strategy, differentiation or cost leadership. With AI, we can go for differentiation and for cost leadership at the same time. That's why these companies that I already mentioned, they are leading and they are growing a lot. So, and this is why we say the winner takes all. And I will show very quickly later how. This is one of the reasons why AI is becoming very popular. In AI, basically, we manage two KPIs: accuracy of the system and the value provided by the accuracy of the system. Of course, one system that the accuracy that provides is below the human accuracy has not so many sense. It's basically automation, but it's not learning. So because it's a replica. But the point is that we see in this chart, just is only from 2013 to 2021, how fast the AI, both AI with the training data and AI without training data, they improve the human capability and the human accuracy. So they augmented the human capabilities. So today we can apply in the AI much better than the humans they produce. But also related about this marginal cost tends to zero. You can see here in this chart, all these charts are from very good report. The index, AI Index 2021 report from Stanford. We must give the credits to Stanford for this very strong, and the colleagues from Stanford for this strong research, and is available also in the citation. But we see that just between 2017 and 2019, in 2 years, the cost of the identification of one image by AI using a benchmark that is also created by a database of the Stanford dropped from $2,100 or $2,100 say in USA to just $7.4 in 2 years. So we can do a correlation of that, and it's easy to imagine how it tends to the marginal cost tends to zero. But also, this was for visual recognition, but for language understanding already achieved the level of the human performance, and is starting to surpass, to overcome the level of human competence for language understanding. Language understanding means that I make a sentence and the system is able to read, understand what the meaning of my sentence. And we expect that this is going to ramp again because there are many now systems that they use for the understanding all the data collected in the open internet. There are many libraries, and we expect that this is going to increase, and probably in 2 years is not a risky prediction that we will say in 2 years will be about 95%. And also, if we go to the previous chart about the cost, that maybe in 2 years will be about $1 or $0.1, something like that. And the third competence of AI, so is first of all was to recognize, then second is understand, third is to be able to give an action, to respond. And we see here also the question answering accuracy, the AI versus humans, also increased a lot in the last years. Just in 2018, we break the barrier of the human accuracy, which is between 89 and 91. And we see today is between 23 and 25%. So AI is creating more value than the humans in this. Basically, the AI has four different functions that we can use. The first one is descriptive, and the first one is descriptive, and the second is predictive. With this, is a lot of collaboration, means a lot of collaborations with humans. And we can do this with data analytics, and we can do this also with statistical models or mathematical models. So what AI improves here is the quality and the speed, but also can have the possibility, the function to prescribe, to tell us what we have to do. Like a GPS system is telling us when we are driving. And the last one, and the most powerful that we are moving, is the autonomy. It's not only to be automated, so doing repetitive tasks, is the capability to be autonomous, to make the function by itself and learning by itself. So everything related about control is in the left side is more control from the humans. In the right side is more control about the machines. We can say that today, more or less, that we are between predictive and prescriptive applications in the business field, in the companies. So we can classify the companies according if they are data-driven company. So they use the data and the AI to understand the situation and to predict what is going to happen, or AI-driven companies that they use the AI already to take decisions, following the suggestions from the AI. Or we have companies, less companies of this today yet, but they are going to be the companies of the future, that they are AI first companies, that these companies, the business model and the operations model is already based on AI. And these are the real disruptive companies and disruptive innovation resides here. Other companies, they more or less, they have some connections with the traditional and incumbent companies. And then, so we have four disruptive powers, four functions. Then what are the four strategies of the objective of the AI for business? First one, related about profit, increase performance and competitiveness. If we use just the one or second function of the AI, we can achieve this very clear. Second is sustainability. Prepare the company for the entry of competitors from another industries, because we can see also these companies I showed you in the beginning, they are moving to many industries. We know that the industrial revolutions, they transform the industries. They create the new industries and they break the boundaries between industries. Third one is growth. Entering the new digital and smart economy, also going to another industries, develop new industries together. And four is innovation. Create disruptions with new products, service, business models, and operating models. And this is something that we can do also at the same time, the four objectives, as we can do the four functions and as we can take advantage of the four disruptive powers of the AI at the same time. And with this, we create the augmented enterprise. AI without talent is not possible. So it's a strong connection of AI and talent. And if we connect this by some researchers made also by colleagues from MIT, and I mix in two of these research, if we divide this into business leader competences and digital leadership competences, so related about the culture of the company and how they compete and how they are very good in business or how they understand the technology to apply to the business. So they found that these companies that we call followers, so they don't have a strong leadership in business and they don't have a strong readiness of the technology and the digital technology. The revenue is below 4% of the average and profitability is less than 25% of the average. But those companies that they don't have a strong business leadership, but they are very, very strong in the technology, so they are basically engineering companies, they increase the revenue, so they are focused on growth, 6% over the average, but the profitability is lower, the average, 11%, because they are constantly investing. They are pushing the growth by technology. But those companies, and this is the paradox, that they are very focused on business, but they have difficulties to transform into the digital area. The revenue is decreasing, of course, because they are losing market, or the market is shrinking, but the profitability is 9% over the average, because they are very good at reducing costs, they are very good at doing layoffs, so they are very good in the management shrinking of the company, or in the re-engineering, we say in business. And those companies that they use AI as AI driven in the company, they perform 2.5 times more than the average. Those companies that they have strong leadership competences and digital competences also very strong, the revenue is 9% over the average and profitability 26% of the average. And those companies that they are AI driven, they perform 6.5 times more than the competitors, the average, 650% times better than competitors. That explains why these companies, they keep this growth sustainable and for years. So what is the human collaboration here? If we don't put the human, the talent in the loop, this is not possible. So this is the research from MIT, that they found 5 different attributes or collaborative principles that the companies, the best practice companies, they use. So if we don't apply any of these 5, so let's say that we can achieve this 2.5 plus performance. But if we apply only 1, we arrive to the 3.8 times, and we apply 5 is 6.5 times. These are reimagine business process, accept experimentation and employee involvement, actively direct the AI's strategy, collect data with responsibility and ethics, and redesign work to incorporate AI and cultivate related employees' skills. So if we consider this augmented organization, one part of the organization is cyber, is autonomous, is automate, and the other part are the humans fostering this, we can create this value, extra competitive value. And how it works? Basically, because these 3 economies of scale, that they create value in sync. And I'm going to show you very quickly. These 3 economies of scale, they create the AI flywheel and the AI mode. What is the AI flywheel? The AI flywheel is the concept, and was coined by Jim Collins in the old book Good to Great, but we can apply for AI. Is this virtual loop that allows to the company to create synergies and storage a lot of energy in growth. So basically, we have a good products that attracts customers. With customers, we take more information, we have more data through the AI allows us to improve the products, they attract more customers, and this is an infinite loop of growth for the company. And if we put AI in the loop, and we put humans in the loop, we can increase even more this flywheel that was coined by Jim Collins. How it works in AI-driven companies? Every AI model has a limited capability to increase value. Or AI algorithm reach sufficient accuracy that it no longer generates much more predictive value or economic value in the company. So then, over time, AI-driven companies generate waves of AI projects that maintain competitive advantage by constantly creating exponential growth. And this concatenation of AI flywheels create the AI mode. So it's not only one AI flywheel we have in the company. These companies, they have only one flywheel. They create one flywheel and immediately they go to create another one. Immediately they go to create another one. What is the AI flywheel is creating, for example, now Apple, 2 flywheels, one for autonomous car and another for healthcare. And they already have a very good flywheel in the current products and services, but they are working for the next. So this concatenation of flywheels, they create the waves, S-curves of innovation, and that's explained what these companies that are able to keep this sustainable growth, and we can sustain this for different strategies. Then they create the AI mode. And what is the AI mode? A business moat, and this was defined by Warren Buffett, is a sustainable key competitive advantage that sets a company apart from the competitors. That's why we say the winner takes all. When we say that winner takes all, is because the winner was able to create a moat. If they use AI, they are creating AI moat. The AI moat needs these three economies of scale. For one side, we have the flywheel of the data. More data, more users, more products, and more data. But for another side, we have the flywheel of the talent of the AI-first companies. So we have all our people, the engineers for the applications, the data scientists, but also we have our product managers, business developers, all the company inside, creating value about this learning experience, but this cycle of learning, relearning, and learning I explained in the book. Then, in this left side, we have the economy of scale. Economy of scale of data, more data, more data, more data. We are creating more value. In the right side, we have the economy of learning. Our machines, they are learning, performing better, but our people, our talent, they are learning and they know how to develop new systems and they know how to create the next flywheel. And together they can create economies of scope. When we have the matching, the fitting of economies of scale, economies of learning, and economies of scope, these companies, they achieve the AI mode. And just to conclude, I'm going to give you one example, very simple example. I'm not going to go deeply about this example, but just to give you some hints. Everybody knows Uber. So Uber is a mobility company. So they use AI to connect drivers with riders in cities. And why AI is important here? Because each city is different. The culture for driving, the demographics of each city, the needs are different. So what they cannot, they use some of the data from different cities, but what they are using this is to capture basically data about driving behaviors and transportation flows in the cities. So they are creating the economy of scale of data. At the same time, they create a new business model that is very profitable, but they go for more. And why they go for more is once they have this data, they have this economy of scale, and they start to develop the economy of learning for one city, they go for the second service they provide, the Uber pool. So it's the sharing car. They know the routes, they know the schedules, the timelines, they know the bottlenecks in the traffic areas, so then they can predict better if I have two customers in the same car with going to the same direction but in different points, how I can optimize this route. So they have now the Uber pool, and then they create the second flywheel. They are learning about how people in the collaborative, in the sharing cars, they are moving. Then they have the first S-curve of innovation, but they already are developing the second curve of innovation. What happened that is competitors are trying to compete in the first innovative course, but Uber, they are working in the second. That's why it's very difficult to catch these companies. And that's why, again, we say the winner takes it all. Because competitors, they are trying to compete in one area of the market that already is created and is going to become a totally stable business for the first to enter. And this winner is developing the second one. And we can add more and more flywheels. What flywheels Uber is creating, they are creating currently more or less five flywheels. First is Uber X, the first service, one car, one driver, one rider. The second one is Uber Pool, one rider, one car, many riders, even three or four clients. But now they go for Uber Eats. That means not moving people, moving food or moving goods. And then they go for Uber Health, that is moving people related with the health, to the hospitals, all people to the consultancies, and then Uber Connect for the transportation. With all of these economies of scale of data and all of these economies of scope in each area and all of these economies of learning, Uber, they will have the best database in the future for the autonomous cars. and Uber will be a very strong competitor in autonomous cars. Even now, they don't have their own cars. And maybe that's why Toyota Corporation, they invest a huge amount of dollars in this company, because the economies of scale, the economies of learning, and the economies of scope of Uber. And Uber will be a strong player in the future because they have the software, they have all the data about how in the cities we can optimize the flow of the autonomous cars. So creating this AI mode is how the companies, they develop this radical disruptive innovation. And that has been all from my side for today. Thank you for your interest, and I give you the floor to Kato-san.
Okay, thank you very much, Jorge-san, for your enthusiastic and insightful presentation. And we'll be moving into the dialogue part, but before that, for the audience, could you write your questions in the chat box during our dialogue? Yeah, so whenever you come up with your questions, please feel free to write your questions, and we'll have a Q&A session after dialogue. And maybe some of you are the GLOBIS MBA students, and we are sure that to understand something new, maybe it's very important to ask yourself. So to understand completely, please feel free to write your questions. Okay. So Jorge-san, thank you very much again. And maybe we have 20 minutes to have dialogue. So Natsumi-san, could you move to the next slide? Okay. So I organized the questions I'd like to ask today. So, and maybe I'll start with what and why of AI and innovation, because maybe some of the participants might be obsessed with AI and innovation, because we've been talking about these topics. So, and as you said, it might take long until it explodes. So, but of course, I understand it's very important to understand and proceed with innovation. So my question is, what will happen if we don't understand AI and innovation? And in other words, why is it so important to understand it?
Well, thank you, Kato-san. The answer is will be fatal. We don't understand. So, and we know before from the previous industrial revolutions, we know that if we go to the Fortune 500 companies, from 1956 only remain about 18%, 18% of the companies. So, and this was because the digitalization and the globalization. So we can predict that if companies are unable to adapt, they are unable to transition, about 40% of the companies, they will have a lot of problems in between 5 to 10 years. But I don't want to give the dramatic approach of this. But it's a sense of the urgency, and we need to have this sense of the urgency when we are leading change. And this is very important to have clear. And we have also in my company that even the president say, if we don't transition, the company will die. But if we have this mindset, then we kill the innovation inside of the company, because we move to a reactive mode, protective mode, no? And then we fall in the quadrant of these companies that they are very good in business competences, but they are not good in digital competences. So we need to have a very, very optimistic and positive approach. So thanks to the AI, my company is going to grow 2 times more.
Okay, thank you very
and
much.
then the question is how we grow, how we will 2 times more with the innovation.
Yeah. So maybe without innovation, it's difficult to survive. So looking at the data, and thank you very much. And maybe we move on to the how part. So as you said, we have to translate and transform our organizations. Yeah, but my first question of how to transform our organization in order to lead the innovation. Because I'm asking, and in your books, maybe the concept of leadership, such as moonshot leadership, or so how to lead this transformation is my second question. Yeah.
Thank you. The point in the companies is that the companies, they live in the comfort zone, and they try to increase the revenue by 2%, 5%, 10% is very good. But they don't see that other companies, they grow by 20%, 30%, even 100%. So then they are competing in a different game. So different rules. So transforming a company is difficult because the culture of the company, the corporate culture, is like an immune system that is against everything that is new, because they want to protect the legacy. And this is human, and this is because we have a gland in our brain, that the reptilian gland, that prevents us from changes, and make the relation change is dangerous, is a risk. And thanks to this, the species, they survive. But the point is that we don't need to kill the current competences of the company. So we can basically we need three big teams inside of the company. So, and we can classify also our talent, our people, according how they can foster these three different areas. The first different area is how we keep our business alive and growing, maybe 5-10% per year with this innovation, current business. Second one, another team, is how we transform our business to another industries or another solutions or another value propositions. Another team. And another team, the moonshot team, we call, that they are looking for very radical solutions and totally different applications. Just giving you one example of my company, Roland Corporation. Roland Corporation started in the music field. They invented the electronic music together with other companies, but basically the electronic drums were created with Ikutaro Kakehashi, the founder of Roland, and was music. And for that, we were able to jump to the computer-aided design and computer-aided manufacturing, and digital printers, and totally different field. And after that, in the last years, we jump to the dental implants, digital dental implants, and 3D printing. So, but all the business, they remain, because these economies of learning, we can cross move this learning we have from these three different approaches to the business, and then we can create economies of scope, economies of learning, and economies of scale. So the point is not to kill the incumbents, it's how to keep the business alive, and then how we transform the business, and then how we create totally new business. In this way, we diversify the risk. If we fail in the new innovative business creation, we still have in the other two areas that they are supporting the investment of this area. And then we can fail and learning for the failure, that is very important, but without risk.
Thank you. And it's very important to have, so one is the existing business, and of course, keep it, and we try to create the other one is very important. So we don't have to kill it. Okay, so thank you very much. And I would like to ask the third question, which is I really want to ask is how to start startup. I'm asking why, according to your presentation, of course, the big companies such as Uber is maybe we can call it a big company because they have AI mode. And maybe for those of the participants, they are thinking about to start startup or how to create. And for those of who are trying to create a new business, what's your advice? So create a prototype or enter Apple or give up the idea or?
Okay, thank you, thank you. And also we have a very good comment from Marwan in the chat box about that Uber in Central America is having a lot of success with Uber Connect, even more than the previous. So that reinforced the idea of these ways of innovation inside of the company and the internal entrepreneurship. So we need also in the third group, we need entrepreneurs. And this is the connection also with how to create a startup, how to create a startup outside of the company, so as an entrepreneur, or how to create a startup inside the company, which is almost the same. No? The difference is the capital fundraising. So basically, how to, all the startups they start, but because they have one idea. The founder they have one idea, no. But the problem is up, is how they go up. So everybody has ideas, but it's not easy to get these ideas into reality. No? So the first is be aware that only 90% of the startups they fail. By definition. Okay, so this is clear. So, and this is like when we are learning and training to swim in the pool. Be aware that we are going to drink a lot of water. No water in this, we cannot learn to swim in the pool. So then, but it's because why these entrepreneurs they succeed, because they try many times. They try many times. So finally, they learn from the failures, and then they are able to define the final value proposition they say as success. So first of all, of course, we need a minimum viable proposition. It's not only idea. We must be sure that we can convert this idea into a minimal value proposition. But how we know that this is a minimum viable proposition is by experimentation, making a pilot, making a prototype, and then showing this to many people. But also very important, start to recruit talent from the beginning, because alone is not possible. If we analyze all these companies that we already mentioned, of course, there is one founder, but there were very good second on boards and very good teams supporting the vision of the entrepreneur. So basically, it's make clear your minimum viable proposition, challenge this minimum viable proposition before to go into the market by a prototype, and then recruit as much as possible the best talent to cover your gaps and to help you on that. And finally, be persistent, be patient, try and try.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, it's important to start something, even if it's small. Yeah, first day is very important, and fail fast is very important. And my fourth question is about maybe we fail, as you said. Yeah, at that time we have to unlearn and relearn, as you are in your books. So maybe we have to refresh our thinking again and again. So maybe I'd like to ask your personal habit or custom, how to unlearn in your business or daily life?
Okay, interesting. Personal question, but glad to share with all of you. So that's why also something I learned in my company, as I already mentioned to you. They started with electronic musical instruments, digital musical instruments, and I was in the digital business for 30 years from 1984. So the first thing to unlearn is always move out of the comfort zone. So I always check in myself. I do a kind of audit once a year, especially, and I used to do this audit by coincidence in San Francisco or New York. So I used to go, when I stay there, I take 2 or 3 days and just to relax and then to think about what I did in the last year, and of course what I can do better, but what of I did before can become obsolete quickly. And then I try to keep a very, very high curiosity for everything. So I not only I allocate part of my time to read and to research about many other things, always connected with connecting dots, but trying to connect dots. For example, now it's about cognitive science. So cognitive science is not only the computing science, also the AI, is philosophy, is anthropology, is psychology, is language. Of course, I'm not going to become an expert on all of that, but I need to learn. I need to know that what I knew before, what I learned maybe 20%, I cannot be used in the future. By this assumption, then I always try to refresh and to refresh, always challenging myself, and always accepting failure in this learning experience as a part of the learning experience.
Yeah, thank you very much. And allocating time is very important, and deepen a certain topic is very important. And also we have to try to connect certain and with other knowledge and the connecting dots. Try to find other connecting dots.
Yeah, also, just to complete this about these connecting dots, because I mentioned about the intellectual part for learning, but also there is, and we have here Nakamura-san sensei that is an expert in the spiritual part of the leadership. Also, we shouldn't forget that we are humans. So spirituality is very important. So it's how what I am doing is fulfilling my sense of life. And always I try to keep this. And same, I allocate some days a year for this intellectual thinking and reshaping my book, toolbox, because at the end what I do is I see that I have a toolbox of competences. Some of them I don't use, they are rubbish, so I have to remove. Another that I use a lot, so I need to reshape, and others I don't have. I need to go for new tools. But in the spiritual as well, how it fulfill my life. And also what I used to do, and this is one of the points that why I love Japan, is I used to go to some temples, Zen temples, and spend 2, 3, 4 days just reflecting about the meaning of life, because it's not only about contribution in profitability for the financial statements. Its contribution in profitability for life, for our life, for the lives that we love, and for the lives that the people that they surround us.
Thank you very much. It's very impressive. So it's very important to our core, or what's fulfill your life. Okay, thank you very much. Natsumi-san, have we received some questions from audiences? Maybe we can maybe receive the questions and ask Jorge-san.
Okay, so EL asked how to convince incumbents to adopt agile and experimental methodology. Any advice?
Yeah, sure. And by experience in the company. So always it's difficult to convince people to change. But the first, rather to convince them about the methodology, how to do, is let's go to try to not convince them, to analyze together if we need to move. Because if people don't agree that they need to move, they are not going to move. You can give them many methodologies, many mechanisms, and they are not going to move. And for this, there is a beautiful book from Kotler about leading change, that the title is "My Iceberg is Melting." And it's a very nice history about one group of penguins that they are living in an iceberg. And one of the penguins, the youngest, realized that the iceberg is melting in the bottom, but the community, they cannot see below the sea, and he needs to convince to all the community. It's a book you can read in 30 minutes and show you how the 8 different steps about to convince the one incumbent company to move further. But basically, is to asking how is going to be the future, and we need to agree about the future is going to be different. And then we can agree about the methodology, and of course the methodology is agile and foster creativity and many other things. I recommend the book from Kotler, My Iceberg is Melting. It's a very good investment and very nice 30 minutes of reading, and because he's the leader, top authority or leading change. And the second one is creating the sense of the urgency. Why? Because if not, people, they agree that we need to change, but they always keep the change for tomorrow. Okay, because the daily activities, the daily job is catching our attention. No? And then second is create a sense of urgency. If we don't do that, then we will belong to these 40% of the companies that they will disappear in 5-10 years.
Okay, thank you very much. So does anyone has any questions? If you have, please raise your hand or unmute yourself. Thank you, Maru. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for giving me this opportunity. In my experience, there's a lot of lip service around topics like AI in non-tech corporations, also around innovation and agile and similar topics. A lot of lip service, and there's also we call that AI theater. There's also a lot of a sense of disdain and arrogance of upper management in non-tech companies towards tech and AI. They think they can buy that as a commodity or outsource that to consulting companies, or just acquire the knowledge by recruiting some smart, young, jeans sneaker wearing people. And suddenly you got your eye, I'm going to set up an incubation center and I'm going to give them the latest in Max and I don't know what, and they're going to just all do TensorFlow and learn about neural networks, and they're going to do some startup methods, and they're going to output me some awesome AI stuff. I got the next flywheel. My question, that's the situation. The complication I see here is, first, do you have a similar perception in your career? Each human being has a different perception, but also what would be a cultural / change tactic to help these companies go beyond that and go to a plateau of productivity around AI?
Okay, thank you, Maru. Yeah. In general, I agree about that. In fact, it's because this chart I showed with the axis of business competences, leadership, and digital leadership. So basically, because we come from the third industrial revolution, that was the revolution of the digitalization. With companies, they tend to apply AI like IT project, and this is totally failure. Because AI is a cognitive science, so and must be applied also with another cognitive. So otherwise, we fail. And in another side, we have other companies that they are developing the business competences. And if we go, for example, to the world of education, we have a university, we have engineering schools that they are developing very, very strongly the digital competences, and we have business schools that they keep developing very strongly the leadership competences. But we have just few universities that they are developing both at the same time. GLOBIS is one exception. That's why we are talking about AI in our business schools, and we are not talking about coding. We are not talking about TensorFlow, GPT-3, or this kind of hypes that they are today. So technology is something that we use to make our vision possible and to create. No? So for these companies also, I will recommend, and when I do consultancy, I recommend to them. So okay, let's go. Let's start by putting the engineers and the business managers together. But because it's difficult to make them to understand together, let's put also the customers together, the future customers, and let's start to co-create together, co-create inside of the company and call these innovative customers that they are going to bring you ideas. This is something that our founders in DG, Kutaro Kakehashi, he made many times. He created a very nice center in Hamana Lake, in Hamamatsu, and he always called to the best musicians to give ideas to inspire the R&D. And many times these ideas, they were totally crazy for the engineers, but they got these ideas as inspiration, because at the end of the day, our customers at that time, for the music side of the business, was to provide creativity for the musicians, so they will be able to create new songs and new music. So let's go to put the engineering side, the business side, and the customer side all together.
Okay. Thank you very much, and thank you for Maru. Thank you for your question. Yeah.
There is a question from Nakamura-san about where can I study about AI?
Yeah. It's a simple question, but it's very important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's very relevant. So, of course, in GLOBIS, I teach that. But also, we need to decide. So, there is a research as well that if we go for the most wanted job positions today, for companies that they don't have AI projects, they are trying to recruit AI engineers, AI-related people with the technology. And that can make if we only take this information to develop our career, our own career. So how I do? So I should go to engineering school quickly now? No, because the fact is that what the surveys say, that companies that they have more than 3 or 4, 5 projects already working, the top job seeking is for business managers, customer experience and something like that, that they understand AI. So I'm going to give you a very simple example. So I drive my car, but I have no idea about mechanics. But I know where I want to go, how much money I have for the for the transportation, etc. And I understand a little bit about my car, about the limits, about how can support me. So what we need is technology readiness. We don't need to code. Of course, we need coders, but it's not the same. So we need the people that they are coding, and they need people that they are developing. If not the coders, for what they are going to develop. But the simple question is, yes, in GLOBIS, we have innovate and we teach AI and business innovation.
Yeah, thank you very much. And maybe we are almost time. So let me ask you the last 2 questions. Maybe you've already answered a little, but what's your expectation for GLOBIS and the GLOBIS USA? And could you give us your final remarks to the audience?
Yes, my expectations about GLOBIS and GLOBIS USA are very high. Are really high. When I joined GLOBIS almost 7 years ago, and in my transition from my executive time to the academia and consulting time, I love the vision and of Horizon and this challenging vision that always every year we are going for more, and we can see in GLOBIS principles I already mentioned. So I have high expectations. So Peter Drucker, he said 27 years ago that in 30 years, campuses of universities, they will be relics, they will be extinct. And he said because the communication by satellite, the virtual communication in the future will be bigger. But it's not everything about virtual, it's not everything about the cloud. Don't forget that we shouldn't forget that we are humans and we need contact and we need face-to-face and we need sometimes to drink a coffee, to have a brainstorming of a very crazy idea. So for GLOBIS, it's very important to keep in touch with all the different cultures and all these economic centers of development. So I have high expectations in knowledge transfer, in also in startups, in entrepreneurship connections, connecting the dots, putting our community from Japan in contact with the community of the San Francisco Valley, that is amazing, but also putting the San Francisco Valley community, the Bay community, together with the Japanese, because we have many things to creating synergies. So of course we have many differences, and these differences will allow us to create synergies. Expectations high, but please don't get stressed. Your mission is very high, so take it easy, and I believe on you. And final remarks for the audience: keep your enthusiasm high. So embrace the change. Don't hate the change. If you try to be against the change, you are going to be you are going to have a very unhappy life. So people that they don't like change, they are going to hate the future. So it's better to approach this with enthusiastic, and has been proven from many psychological studies that the people that they have a more optimistic approach, they have more probabilities of succeed. And there is very nice experiment with cobayas that we don't have time to explain the experiment, but the point is that optimistic people and people that they believe is possible, they have a percentage of highest percentage of succeed. And in teaching in schools, they have a lot of there are a lot of studies about if we tell to the students that you can do and they believe, they have more probabilities of succeed. That if we tell to the people you cannot do, you die, then people they demotivate and they don't develop. So keep your enthusiasm high. You are going to fail. Then you are going to learn something new that other people didn't learn, because failure is unique. So go for that.
Yeah, thank you very much for your enthusiastic speech. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you
Yeah,
for
thank you
your,
very
for your
much.
interest and thesis.
Yeah. So, okay, thank you very much. Let me give it back to Natsumi-san.
Okay, thank you very much. Before I get to my part, there is a question from Mehalan-san. So can you address Jorge for the last question, if it's possible?
Yes, I am available. No
Okay,
problem.
so he asked, the big challenge for startup in AI is how to get the data needed for their business. What is your advice?
Well, I'm sorry. Don't take this as a lecture because this is a webinar. But the biggest misunderstanding about AI is that we need data for training the machines. And so we can, for training the machine, that we can use synthetic data. We can use the databases that we already buy or libraries. So for training a machine, we of course, if we have data, much better. But if we don't have data, we can create this data. But because what we are doing is training the machine, not doing the analysis, not performing the analysis of the classification yet. So this is one of the misunderstandings to approach to the AI as a big data analytics. So if no big data, we cannot apply AI. There are many applications of AI that they didn't have data from the beginning and is synthetic. In fact, one of the highest developments now in AI is about synthetic data and developing machine learning models without data. So it's not a big problem. We can buy we can rent, or we can create the data for training the machine. And once we train the machine, then we can start to accumulate data and start to create this flywheel. And then the machine is going to have a better performance than humans.
Thank you, Jorge, for answering the question last minute.